Carlos Alcaraz receives a warning after his injury. The best thing is to take his time. Ivan Lubicic, former coach of Roger Federer, advises the Mercian not to force his return despite potentially missing up to 2 Grand Slams. Carlos Alcaraz's injury is one of the hottest topics in the tennis world right now. His wrist problems, which began in Barcelona without appearing serious, have turned out to be more severe than expected, and the Mercian has been forced to say goodbye to the rest of the clay court season. With no return date scheduled yet, Carlos Alcaraz already knows that, at the very least, he will miss the Masters 1000 in Rome and Roland Garros. He was defending titles at both tournaments, and his absence will undoubtedly be a major blow in his fight for the world number 1 ranking, an honor Jannik Sinner is currently enjoying with barely any competition. Although missing tournaments of this caliber at this stage may seem catastrophic, returning too soon could be even worse. That is what Ivan Lubicic, former coach of Roger Federer, has reminded everyone of in a lengthy interview with Corriere dello Sport about the Mercian's current situation. Carlos has pain in his wrist, so he has time and the opportunity to work on other things with his team, the coach assessed regarding the world number 2's physical condition. I hope he can take all the time he needs without forcing his return, he admitted. For the coach, rushing back despite the urgency of defending ranking points could be an even greater mistake. I understand that missing 1 or even 2 Grand Slams may seem drastic nowadays, but taking a longer break rather than rushing things would be far less serious, he admitted. Once you're struggling, the best thing is to take your time and come back when you're ready. Despite his physical problems, Ivan Lubicic does not foresee changes within Alcaraz's coaching team. I don't know, the injury is definitely not related to the team. And he won the Australian Open earlier this year. So I couldn't say, he explained. An unexpected injury that has put Carlos Alcaraz's season in jeopardy at its most important moment. Jannik Sinner under the spotlight. A debate has opened around the Italian player after his comfortable victory in Madrid and Carlos Alcaraz's absence from Rome and Roland Garros. Although the debate was already ongoing, the dominance shown by Jannik Sinner at the Mutua Madrid Open, where he crushed Alexander Zverev, has reignited it. Is there anyone capable of beating Sinner right now? The debate was started by British tennis player Greg Rusedski, just before the Madrid tournament began and when Carlos Alcaraz announced he would not play in either Madrid or Rome and would not return before Roland Garros. There's much more pressure and expectation because I'm saying he's going to win Roland Garros, he's going to win Madrid, he's going to win Rome, and he should win everything he plays now. Imagine if Alcaraz doesn't show up at Wimbledon. Again, the pressure will be enormous. You should win everything, said the former British player of Canadian origin. For Rusedski, Sinner is ready to handle that enormous pressure, and his improvement on clay was demonstrated by his victory over Alcaraz in Monte Carlo. Until then, he had never won a clay court tournament, but after winning there, he did it again in Madrid. It's not easy to manage those expectations and that pressure. Yes, he's mentally strong, but suddenly you take away his biggest rival and everyone says you should win. The other players also seem to be starting to step up, he added. So far, Jannik has been incredible. I've been watching him. And he simply always plays the right shot, even if he doesn't always execute it, the former player acknowledged. Sinner handles the pressure and is far above the rest. In Madrid he only truly struggled in the first set against Bonsi, when he arrived without rhythm and faced an opponent who had already played on the Caja Mágica courts. From then on, he did not lose a set and, in the semifinals and final, he steamrolled 2 of the most informed players at the moment, Arthur Fils and Alex Zverev. In Rome, despite not having rested, the same question remains, will anyone be capable of challenging him? By ranking, his greatest rival would be Zverev, but the German already seems defeated before the tournament even begins. He openly admits there is currently a huge gap between himself and Sinner after losing the last 9 matches they have played against each other. In fact, the German says the world number 1 is currently above everyone else, including Carlos Alcaraz. I think there's a big difference between Sinner and everyone else right now. It's pretty simple, and I think there's a big difference between Alcaraz, myself, maybe Novak, and everyone else. I think there are 2 different levels right now. It's hard to say there isn't a difference between Sinner and everyone else when he hasn't lost a Masters 1000 match since Shanghai. He hasn't lost a match in almost 9 months. I think you have to admit there's a difference between him and everybody else, warned the German. Tony Nadal criticizes Zverev's attitude in Madrid. Those who disagree with him point out that he walked onto the court in the Madrid final already defeated, which is why he suffered such a humiliating beating. In fact, Zverev had to admit he felt inferior, and that was why he played so poorly. I think today I would have lost against anyone, to be honest, he said after the match. It was a final that ended in less than an hour between the number 1 and number 3 players in the world. That's completely abnormal. I think Zverev already stepped onto the court defeated. In his last match with Sinner, the Italian also showed him that right now he is clearly superior. When you lack confidence, it's very difficult to face a player as solid as the Italian, said an analyst as sharp as Tony Nadal, who had been certain about the result from the moment they stepped onto the Manolo Santana court. Novak Djokovic is the hope. However, there is someone who believes that, without Carlos Alcaraz on the circuit, Jannik Sinner can still be beaten. That person is former French tennis player Marion Bartoli, who analyzed the current state of tennis on Sky Sports Tennis and pointed to one name, Novak Djokovic. For me, the only one capable of competing with Sinner and Alcaraz is Novak Djokovic. When he's fit and healthy, he's the only one who can challenge them a bit. For the rest, the gap is becoming so huge that it must be a little discouraging, said the Frenchwoman. Djokovic has returned at the Rome Open 2026, although he is on Zverev's side of the draw and would only meet Sinner in a hypothetical final. That could reveal whether this prediction is accurate. The last time they faced each other, at the Australian Open, the Serbian won. One of the greatest legends in tennis history, Roger Federer, was the latest guest on Andy Roddick's podcast Served. The Swiss star spoke, among other topics, about the current state of tennis and the similarities between tournaments on today's calendar, an aspect that benefits players like Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. The Basel maestro highlighted that, to recover spectacle and balance in tennis, there should be courts with different ball speeds, fast, ultra-fast, and slow. We need to fix it. We need Alcaraz-Sinner matches to be played on fast courts, ultra-fast courts, and very slow courts. That way, we'll see how they compare. That's how ranking points used to work. In the past, only 12 tournaments counted. That's why everyone played on their favorite surface. Then they met, and those were the best matches, when you had an attacker against a defender. Now everyone plays in a similar way, emphasized the 20-time Grand Slam champion. Finally, Federer himself admitted that, for all of this to change, the speed of the ball or the court cannot remain the same. It all comes down to tournament directors allowing it, with the speed of the balls and courts. It's the same every week. That's why you can win Roland Garros, Wimbledon, the US Open. Simply by playing the same way. With Jannik Sinner winning everything on the tour and Rome and Roland Garros just around the corner, the tennis world continues to wonder when Carlos Alcaraz will return to the courts. The 7-time Grand Slam champion, who turned 23 this Tuesday, suffered an injury to his right wrist during his debut at the Barcelona Open that has sidelined him indefinitely. Alcaraz's team has not provided exact details about the injury affecting the Mercian player, and many questions remain unanswered. The only certainty is that Carlos Alcaraz will not be in Rome or Roland Garros, an absence that will cost him 3,000 ranking points for failing to defend the titles he won a year ago at those two major events. Everyone is wondering when the Spaniard will be able to return to the tour and whether he will do so in time for the grass court season, where last year he won Queens and reached the Wimbledon final, where he lost to Jannik Sinner. The Mercian player was in Madrid last week supporting his brother Jamie in the under-16 Mutua Madrid Open tournament. During his stay in the Spanish capital, Alcaraz spoke with Pablo Andújar, former Spanish tennis player and winner of 4 ATP titles. The former player from Cuenca revealed that he spoke with the current Australian Open, Roland Garros, and US Open champion, and that Carlitos explained he will only return when he is 100%. I'm more worried about Levante, because I think we're in trouble, joked the 40-year-old former player when asked about Alcaraz's recovery on Tablero Deportivo on RNE. No, let me explain. I was lucky enough to spend 5 minutes talking with him the day before yesterday, and he told me he wants to come back when he's at 100%. He's not setting deadlines for himself, he's taking it day by day. Because it's true that, in my own experience after having 5 elbow surgeries, when you set deadlines and don't reach them, It can create anxiety and even a small depression, explained Pablo Andújar. The former Spanish player made it clear that Alcaraz will only return once he is fully recovered from his right wrist injury. The important thing is that he takes it day by day, and I see him very focused on making sure that when he comes back, he'll be at 100%, said Pablo Andújar.